Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm the King Live, and today we're going to be taking a look at what makes Asuna one of the best entry fraggers in Valorant. By looking at players better than us, we can take some of the techniques they do and apply it to our own play and help make us better players. Entry fragging is a role many players wish they could play, but oftentimes they don't feel like they have good enough aim to be a good entry fragger. Although having good aim is beneficial when entry fragging though, you can still be decent at playing an entry role even if your aim isn't amazing. It's more important that you understand specifically what your role is for the team. If that sounds confusing to you right now, that's okay. We're going to break down everything you need to know, so just stick with us. But before we get into it though, let's introduce our question of the day, which is, who do you think is the strongest duelist in the game right now? Pretty much all duelists are getting picked in pro play, so I'm intrigued to hear what you all think is the strongest right now. Moving on though, our very first clip we're going to be breaking down from Asuna comes from him playing Jett on Split. Something Asuna is very good at in his competitive matches is noticing what his teammates are doing in the moment and trying to play off of it accordingly. At the beginning of the round, Asuna drops his rifle to his ally Sage because he plans to pick up the orb in B tunnel so that he can activate his knives. You'll notice before peeking B site, he does a quick jump peek just to bait out any shots from the defenders. When they don't fire back, he makes the assumption that no one is holding, and he goes for the orb while his Sage holds down the angle. You'll notice when Asuna is taking the orb, the enemy Raze attempts to peek off of pillar, and this is where Asuna starts to make his play. Because his team is currently pressuring mid, he likely has an opportunity for a 1v1 with the enemy Raze on site. It's important to recognize when playing what a default setup for the defenders is going to look like. On Split, for example, a standard defender setup will look something like 2 players on A, 2 players mid, and 1 B. This means if the mid players are occupied with the mid pressure, the Raze will be alone on site for a few moments until the rotates come in. Once Asuna sees his Sage slow orb sight, he decides to dash out of tunnels with his ultimate activated and updraft into the air to make himself harder to hit. Because the Sage orb landed on pillar, the Raze had to back up, and it opens up the opportunity for Asuna's first kill on the round. Just because he landed an entry though doesn't mean his job is over. A lot of players seem to feel like their only job as an entry fragger is just to get kills, but in reality, an entry fragger's job is to create space for their team, and currently in this round the spike has still not been planted. Asuna recognizes this and knows that he needs to push forward to try and give his team some more time to get the spike down. He takes the opportunity as the defenders are reloading after shooting down a Sage wall and is able to close the distance on them, picking up a second kill into the round, but also giving his team enough room to get the spike down and prepare for post plant. Asuna's aim isn't really the important thing in this clip. What should really stand out for you is how Asuna is constantly aware of what's going on within the round and tries his best to play off of his teammates and create space for them so that they can win the round. A lot of players may look at the fact that Asuna dies in this round as a mistake, but in reality he made the entries in the round and created enough space for his team to get the spike down and prepare for post plant safely, and that's really all that you can ask of your entry fraggers. That was just our first round that we are talking about though, and before we move on to the next one, if you guys haven't already, I highly recommend heading on over to skillcapped.com and seeing all of the focused courses that we have dedicated to helping you become a better player. We have up-to-date lineups, courses on how to improve with all agents, Smurf commentaries where a higher ranked player walks you through how to carry in your rank, and so much more. Come join over 500,000 satisfied members, improve that KDA, and get the rank that you've always wanted at skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. Moving on to our next clip though, it's actually going to be taking place during the same game as the last one. Notice how Asuna makes his way onto A site this time and spots out a very early kill to open up the round. There are 2 main things I want to point out with this first kill that are going to help you win so many more games, and neither of them actually have to do with Asuna's aim specifically. The first one is that a lot of times in your matchmaking games, you'll notice defenders will take early challenges like this one. If you notice that a defender is taking these duels, it's a really good opportunity for you to take advantage of it and double swing that player and take them out early. You'll notice how quickly the site fell after the Omen got taken out at the start. If you're getting picked off this early into a round as a defender, you're really hurting your team, and Asuna takes advantage of this. The other thing that is important to point out in this kill though is how quickly Asuna moves in afterwards. Remember earlier when we talked about what a standard setup looks like for defenders? Most often when playing in matchmaking, that's exactly what you're going to see, a standard setup. This is why after picking off the Omen, Asuna literally takes his knife out because it is very unlikely that there's going to be another enemy there to challenge him right away. Now, I'm not suggesting that you pull your knife out every single time that you get a pick. However, it is important to capitalize quickly after landing an early kill, because if you know the enemy team is likely running a standard setup, then you're going to have a huge opening onto the site if you move quickly. Moving on in the round, notice how Asuna dashes into heaven to both pinch any potential ramp players, but also to take heaven control and create more space for his team to get the spike down. As he dashes into heaven, he realizes he has the bomb, and rather than going to the site himself to plant it, he drops the spike down to a teammate. The reason for this is because he already has a ton of territory, and by falling back to the site himself, he would be giving up heaven control for his team, causing the post plant to be a lot more difficult for them. As the round continues, Asuna ends up swinging spawn and catching the enemy breach using utility, picking up a second kill in the round, and although he ends up going down afterwards, his team is already in a great position to finish out the round, and it was largely to do with how great of an entry he got onto the site. Going back to the very first kill Asuna landed in the round though, I just really want to drill it into players' heads that Asuna isn't doing anything crazy in these clips. The first kill comes almost entirely from crosshair placement, and the second kill he ends up spraying almost an entire magazine onto the enemy breach who was just not prepared for him to push up that far. There seems to be a common misunderstanding for a lot of players that good aim is what makes a strong player, but in reality, focusing on your mechanics is going to help you a lot more. Having good crosshair placement and an understanding of how to play off your teammates effectively will take you a lot farther than being able to get 100k on grid shot. Anyway though, moving on to our last clip of Asuna, this time it's going to be taking place on bind. Notice how Asuna is going to be using his smokes to help block off sight lines so that he can isolate specific angles and clear them out. He's not just walking into showers dry peeking everything, he's using his utility to help make sure that he can isolate his encounters and create the most optimal engagements that he can. Now I know all of these clips have been on Jet, but you can do this with any of the duelists, whether it's using a flash to clear an angle or throwing a raise grenade to block off an angle. If you're attempting to take territory from defenders, you can and should be using your utility to do so. You'll notice during this clip Asuna stops after taking showers and attempts to communicate with his teammates about where to use their utility. This is the sort of thing that really separates higher tier players from lower tier ones. Any player is capable of thinking what they are doing and playing for themselves, but the best players are the ones who are capable of not only thinking about what they are doing, but also thinking about what their teammates are doing and how they can help each other. Together, his teammates are able to coordinate and execute onto a site, making sure to move quickly off of the Reyna flash. Asuna dashes onto site into a smoke that he placed, providing himself some cover. Unfortunately, Asuna ends up whiffing some shots onto the enemy Raze as she's satcheling into the air, but he attempts to recover by using his updraft to make him more difficult to hit and repositions with his team behind truck. Now this really doesn't look like a good scenario for Asuna, and to be entirely honest, that's because it's not. His entire team is stuck behind truck and he just got hit with a sky ultimate, enemy rotates are coming in, it's a really bad position. However, he recognizes that if they are all going to stay behind truck, they are likely going to lose this round, so he attempts to create more space for his team by strafing around towards triple. Because of this reposition, he's able to pick up 2 kills in the round and set his team up in a good position to win the round. Unfortunately for his team though, the enemy Cypher decided that he wanted to pop off this round and finishes them all off with 3 sheriff shots, but hey, maybe next time I guess. This was a good round for Asuna, and although he whiffed the first couple shots onto the Raze, he had a really good recovery in the round, and I really liked how he had the awareness and most of all the guts to leave the safety of the truck and try to push for a different angle for his team. If they all stayed behind the truck, the enemy team surely would have taken control of the site and wiped them out, but because Asuna swung around towards triple, he was able to pick up 2 kills for his team, giving them a fighting chance in the round. Lots of players are really scared to leave cover and attempt to give their team a better position in the round, but you really need to train yourself to be less scared in your play. If you're not playing Valorant with confidence, you're going to be having a really rough time in your games. If you've been putting in the work to improve your aim, stop being afraid to aim duel enemy players. You need to understand that they are not just going to give you territory for free, you're going to have to fight for it. It can be scary knowing that if you die you may lose the round, but you need to remember that pretty much 70% of improving at Valorant is just trial and error. The more gunfights you take, the better you are going to get at gunfighting. You'll learn what engagements are good and what engagements are bad and how to play certain angles. You'll learn from your mistakes and improve as a player, but if you refuse to take any gunfights, you're going to make it very difficult to improve at taking gunfights. Lastly, remember though, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank that you've always wanted, be sure to check out skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. I hope this guide was helpful for people to understand what their role is as an entry fragger. Honestly, the biggest thing I noticed from watching Asuna is how well he plays off of his teammates. Basically, he will take every single opportunity he can to either back up his teammates or use their positioning to his advantage, and I think that's what makes him stand out the most as an entry fragger. He's not just some monkey running around with good aim, he actually is a very intelligent player with his play, and that's honestly what makes the best entry fraggers. Anyway though, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below, it really does help us out, and also don't forget to answer our question of the day, which is, who do you think is the strongest duelist in Valorant? As always, I'm the King Live, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.